11 Sinister Secrets Uncovered, Haunting Home Alone Experiences That Will Terrify You to Sleep. Lisa always believed that suburban life was the pinnacle of safety. But the shadows creeping across her neighborhood revealed a truth far more sinister. Whispers about mysterious disappearances twisted through the air, leaving a cold chill at the nape of her neck. As a single mother working night shifts as a nurse, Lisa juggled her demanding job and the joys of raising her teenage son, Jake. Their lives seemed ordinary until the veneer began to crack. Returning home one late night, exhausted and desperate for comfort, Lisa felt a sense of dread wash over her upon entering. The warm glow of their living room felt extinguished. Flopping onto the couch exhausted, she instinctively reached for her favorite family photo only to find it gone. In its place, a chilling image of a shadowy figure stared back, as if daring her to uncover the truth. Goosebumps prickled along her arms. The walls of her sanctuary were now marked with cryptic messages scraped deeply, like fingernails clawing raw against a coffin. Fighting off panic, she reminded herself it was mere exhaustion playing tricks, but the persistent terror sunk its claws deeper. Jake had been on edge for weeks, convinced that Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, was more than just an elderly man tending to his garden. Jake's alarmed whispers filled their hurried dinners as he recounted chilling tales of disappearances in their quaint suburban haven. Clenching her fork tightly, Lisa felt the weight of maternal protectiveness morph into something darker. "Mom, you have to believe me," Jake said, eyes wide with fear as the sun dipped below the horizon. Lisa nodded weakly, her heart racing, as unease settled over her like the gathering dusk. She could feel tension seeping into their meals, wrapping around them like a noose. It was tea, just the cooking oil in the pan sizzling. It felt like something sinister simmered beneath the surface, waiting to boil over. Before they continued, "I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As night fell into an abyss of darkness, Lisa sat jolting with every creak of the floorboard, trying to wrap her mind around Jake's theories. What if the stories were true? What if something was stalking them, hidden in plain sight? The fear clung to her, relentless as a phantom. Each whisper from outside, every shadow cast by the flickering streetlights gnawed like teeth on her sanity. Could the danger really be so close? As she glanced over at Jake, clutching an old baseball bat like a shield, the illusion of safety shattered. The door creaked open ominously, a dark figure slowly emerging just beyond the porch light. With each heartbeat, the knowledge settled like ice in her veins. They might not just be fighting the horrors of the night. They had unwittingly invited them into their lives. What if the true terror was already inside their home? Lisa's breath hitched in her throat as the figure on the porch stepped closer, illuminated briefly by the flicker of the nearby streetlight. It was Mr. Thompson. His face, a carved mask of wrinkles and shadows, was set in an expression that sent ice through her veins. "Good evening, Lisa," he called out, his voice smooth yet unnaturally chilling. "I was just checking on you and Jake. It's been a while since I've seen you both." Forcing a smile, she tried to steady her heartbeat. "Everything's fine, Mr. Thompson." "Thank you?" The words felt heavy, like stones in her mouth. She could see him eyeing Jake, who stood frozen behind her, bat clenched tight. "Is he all right?" The older man nodded toward Jake, a slight twitch of his lips suggesting amused curiosity. Boys can be so sensitive. "Yeah, just a little jumpy lately," Lisa replied, casting an uneasy glance at Jake. What was he sensing that she couldn't? Without replying, Mr. Thompson took a step closer, the shadows pooling deeper around him. "You know, sometimes I hear noises at night too. You really should be careful." "Thanks for your concern," she mumbled, shooing him away with her hand. She felt the suffocating weight of his gaze and the feeling that it pierced her skin like ice. "All right then. Sleep well," he said, retreating with slow, deliberate movements. Lisa closed the door, a shudder rippling through her body. The walls seemed to press in as she locked the door tightly, heart thudding against her ribcage. "Mom," Jake whispered, hesitation lacing his words. What if he's the one?" Lisa's hands trembled. "He's just old and lonely, sweetheart. Just an old man." But deep down, her insides twisted. What if Jake was right? That night, she lay in bed, staring into the dark corners of her room. Shadows morphed and danced, amplifying every creak and sigh of the house. She had to sleep. She needed rest before taking on the day ahead. But Morphus eluded her as her thoughts spiraled. Blind fear gripped her heart when she heard a scrape against the window, soft but deliberate. Instinct set her pulse racing. She held her breath. The shadows outside thickened, taking on shapes she wished to unsee. "Jake?" she called softly, hoping to wake him, to hold on to that flicker of safety. But the rustle of something outside drowned her voice, creeping through the thin walls like a specter. Her heart sank. In one swift motion, she swung her legs off the bed and tiptoed to Jake's room, the urgency driving her faster. When she opened the door, she was met with darkness. "Jake?" she whispered into the void, heart hammering. The bed was empty. Sheets tangled and tossed, as if he had been pulled from sleep. Panic surged as she darted back into the hall, the cold dread pooling in her gut. The house felt alive, a sinister pulse echoing in the silence. She could feel eyes on her, lurking in every corner like malevolent spirits. "Jake!" she screamed, the desperation clawing at her throat. With every step she took into the dimly lit living room, shadows lengthened and shifted, an unseen hand pulling taut the string of fear wound tightly around her. Then, she heard a low whisper, a ghastly breath skating across her skin. "Help me." That voice, it wasn't Jake's. Lisa felt the world closing in, the walls pulsating with the weight of unspoken horror. Where was her son? As terror clawed at her sanity, she knew the time had come to uncover whatever dark secret resided within the depths of their home. But now would she find Jake, or would she uncover something much worse lurking in the darkness? Lisa's breath came in frantic bursts as she paused in the darkened living room, the chilling whisper still echoing in her mind. "Help me." The words wrapped around her like a vice, tightening with every heartbeat. It wasn't Jake, it felt wrong, so wrong. The silence that followed was suffocating. Shadows seemed to close in on her, wrapping her in a shroud of dread that felt alive, watchful. She scanned the room, but all she saw were the familiar shapes of furniture that now appeared foreign and threatening. She could still feel the weight of those unseen eyes, waiting, stalking. "Jake!" she called again, desperation pushing her voice to break. The emptiness responded only with the soft sighs of the house, as if it exhaled her terror back at her. With shaking hands, Lisa reached for the lamp on the table. The flick of the switch brought a feeble glow to the room, and she took in the chaotic atmosphere. Everything was in disarray. Jake's toys were strewn across the floor, the couch pillows dislodged. He wouldn't have made such a mess by himself. Something must have happened. She made her way toward the kitchen, the uneasiness gnawing at her with every step. The faintest sound, a scraping noise emanating from the pantry, drew her attention. Was he hiding? Could he be in there? She approached slowly, her breath shallow, heart thumping audibly in her ears, drowning out any other sound. "Jake?" she whispered, inching closer, hand outstretched. The scraping stopped abruptly. Her mind raced, thinking every horrific scenario possible. When she reached for the door handle, the silence was thick, heavy. But as soon as she touched it, it swung open with a creak. Darkness stared back at her, and in that moment, unease churned into raw panic. This wasn't where she wanted to be. Suddenly she heard it again, a low, drawn-out groan, echoing from somewhere deep inside the pantry. A cold sweat broke on her forehead, and she stumbled back a step. This wasn't right. This is just a dream, she told herself, yet every ounce of her being screamed to flee. In her frantic mind, the memory of Mr. Thompson washed over her. His unnerving words, the chill of his gaze, the slithering feel of his presence creeping ever closer, wrapping around them like vines. Had he done something? Was he involved in Jake's disappearance? Mom! The shout jolted her into motion, pulling her back to reality. It was Jake! The voice came from the back door, faint but unmistakably his. She rushed toward it, fear fueling her adrenaline. Could it be a trap, or was it truly him? With trembling fingers, she cracked the door open. The nighter rushed in, pushing against her in a blinding rush. Jake? He stood there, eyes wide, soaked in moonlight. He looked unharmed, but there was something lurking behind his expression, something dark and unfathomable. Mom! You have to come quick, he's right there. Who? She panicked, straining to see beyond him into the shadows. The trees in their yard twisted and swayed beneath the flickering streetlight, and she could have sworn she saw a shape lingering just at the edge. Jake's voice trembled. Mr. Thompson is outside and he's not alone. With that, the weight of dread slammed back into her, overwhelming as she stared into her son's wide eyes. What kind of nightmare had unfolded in the night? She wanted to grab him, pull him into the safety of their home, but the thought of leaving whatever was lurking outside unsupervised chilled her. Stay close! She barked. Just as she began to pull him inside, a soft rustle rose from behind Jake, sending icy fingers down her spine. The shadows shifted, revealing two dark silhouettes stepping forward into the pool of light. Lisa's heart stopped. This was far from over. Who else lurked in the darkness, and what did they want? The moment Lisa's gaze met the two figures, her heart pounded wildly in her chest. She yanked Jake back, pulling him protectively against her. The shadows held a sinister familiarity, shrouded in the harsh glow of the weak porch light, but she couldn't place them. Mom! Don't let them! Jake's voice caught in his throat, terror lining his features, as his eyes darted between her and the figures who stepped forward. Stay behind me! She ordered, the instinct to protect him raging fiercely. The larger silhouette stepped forward first, a hulking mass with eyes that gleamed like shards of glass. It's just a friendly visit, the figure rasped, voice like gravel crunching underfoot. The tone was mockingly cheerful, but Lisa sensed the danger it masked. This wasn't a friendly visit. Get away from my house! She shouted, her voice slicing through the stillness like a razor. The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The smaller figure shifted, and Lisa's blood ran cold. It was Mr. Thompson. He stood with a menacing grin that stretched unnaturally across his face, illuminating the hollowness behind it. Oh, Lisa! You've always been so protective of your son. It's adorable, really. But you have no idea what's at stake here. Stay back! She screamed again, reaching for the door to shield Jake behind her, but it slammed shut before she could grab the handle. A deafening boom echoed in the night, sending a wave of panic swelling in her chest. Look at him! Thompson urged, pointing at Jake. He's the reason we're all gathered here tonight. The keyword to our little game. What game? She spat, fury laced with fear. Your boy has a gift, a rare one. The hulking figure folded his arms, the shadows sharpening his features. And we've come to collect. Jake whimpered, pressing closer to his mother. The night seemed to close around them, the trees beyond twisting into strange shapes, looming threats in the dark. Lisa's mind raced with thoughts. What gift? Why now? Her heart felt like it might leap from her chest. Let him go! He's just a kid! She shouted, desperation in every syllable. Mr. Thompson chuckled darkly. Every kid has his purpose. It's time for his to be fulfilled. He can help us. In that moment, something flickered in Jake's eyes, a glimmer of understanding, of fear she had never seen before. Mom, he hesitated, then choked on his breath. I don't want to. A sudden wind swept through the yard, chilling her to the bone, as shadows surged around the figures. Just then, she noticed movement directly behind them. Another indistinct shape drifted closer. Panic flooded her. She could feel the weight of impending dread suffocating every hope. What is happening? She whispered, hoping against hope this was all just a terrible dream. Let's just say you won't be the only one worried for your boy, the big figure murmured, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. Come with us, and everything will be just fine. No! Lisa cried, clutching Jake tighter, her heart racing wildly. Fear collided with determination. She would not allow them to take her son, no matter the cost. Mom! Please! Jake cried, a flood of tears streaming down his face as he was torn between fright and something deeper, something that sent shivers through Lisa. A sudden thudding noise echoed at the back of the house. It jolted her, drawing her gaze back to the darkness behind her. Had they come for something inside too? For a brief moment, fear squeezed her throat, and she felt trapped by forces she didn't understand. Just then, the shadowed figure beside Thompson took a step forward. Lisa's breath hitched as she clutched Jake, every instinct screams to run. But she had nowhere to go. What do you want? She shouted, voice full of anguish. They smiled, the kind of smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Everything you cherish, Mr. Thompson responded, voice dripping with malice. And it starts tonight. The wind howled, and Lisa instinctively stepped backward. But a sudden movement caught her eye. The darkness was shifting again, and something was emerging, a figure. Twisted and indistinct. It moved with a purpose. She felt her stomach drop. Could she fight them? Or would the shadows finally claim everything she held dear? As the figure stepped into view, a malevolent grin spread across its face, and in her frantic mind she knew the real night was just beginning. What had she unknowingly brought into her life? What would it mean for her and Jake? Lisa's world spun in chaos. The darkness around them thickened, wrapping tight like the grip of a vice. The ominous figure prowled forward from the shadows. Its face, a mask of grotesque contortions, reflected the faint light, distorting into an amalgam of fear and malice. Mom! Jake whispered, trembling against her. I don't understand. Just hold on, she murmured, trying to project calm even as her heart raced like a runaway train. Panic clawed at her throat. She felt exposed, vulnerable under the predator's gaze. Every instinct screamed for escape, but the figures closed in, cutting off any chance of flight. Don't you see? Thompson continued, stepping closer. This is your destiny, Jake. You have an untapped potential that we must unlock. You're not like other children. The hulking figure loomed behind, a dark silhouette prepared to spring. Lisa could barely catch her breath as murmurs from the shadows intensified, swirling into a chilling chant. Each word slithered into her mind, wrapping cold fingers around her thoughts. What are you doing? She shouted, desperation clawing at her voice as she held Jake. You can't take him. Not now, not ever. Oh, but we're simply here to help him blossom, the larger figure replied, tilting its head, eyes glinting with predatory excitement. You'll thank us for it in the end if you even survive this night. Without thinking, Lisa twisted, searching for any means of escape, her hands trembling as her fingers brushed against the rough wooden planks of the porch. She spotted a rusted garden spade at the edge of the flower bed. It seemed so far away, yet somehow it felt like her only hope. Jake, listen to me, she urged, steadying her breath to keep the panic at bay. I need you to trust me. When I say go, we run for the spade. Can you do that? His eyes widened, confusion dancing in the depths of his fear. But Mom, Jake. She shot him a fierce look, desperation pushing her to the brink. We have to go now. Just then, the wind picked up, shrieking through the trees. Shadows flared like black flames. The figures laughed. A chill burst through the air, making the hairs on Lisa's arms stand on end. Another blur appeared behind them, coalescing into a being with even darker intentions. You shouldn't have come outside, Lisa. You're playing a dangerous game, it hissed, voice slithering through the space, draping over her like a heavy blanket of dread. Mom, I can see something. Something awful! Jake cried, horror painting his small face. The chanting grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Lisa squeezed Jake's hand, panic and fury merging. She was not going to let them take him. Now! She yelled, and they surged towards the spade, hearts thundering. But the shadowy figures unleashed a deafening roar, their laughter echoing in the void. The night swirled with dark energy, swirling towards them like a storm. The hulking figure lunged with speed that didn't seem natural, arms stretching toward them, ready to strike. "Flee!" echoed a voice deep in the shadows, thick with malice, as they raced forward, time and fear blurring. They reached the spade just as the earth shook, thudding like a heartbeat. Lisa leaned down, grasping the cold metal, lifting it like it was a lifeline. "Jake, hold on!" she shouted. But the chaos was overwhelming. With a sickening flicker, the figures dissolved momentarily, just to surge forward again, faster this time. "Do you really think you can save him?" one whispered, a chill brushing against her skin. "You've already lost." Lisa felt the weight of their words deep within her chest, suffocating every ounce of hope. The shadows were alive, creeping close as she readied the spade. But Jake pulled away, skin pale, eyes wide. "Mom! I can feel them! I can feel the game they're playing, then we'll change the rules," she hissed, spirit igniting with defiance. She gripped the spade tightly. Shadows circled, ready to strike. But could she truly strike back? Or was this just the beginning of her nightmare? As the first figure lunged, teeth jagged and ready to rip her world apart, Lisa's heart raced at a terrifying thought. They were never meant to have lived in peace, and the night was far from over. Lisa swung the spade with all her might, fueled by panic and determination. The cold metal collided with the nearest figure, making a sickening thud that sent a ripple through the air. It recoiled, hissing like a wounded animal, its twisted face contorting in rage. "Mom!" Jake screamed, eyes wide with terror. "What if we can't stop them?" "We have to try," she shouted back, gripping the spade like her last tether to sanity. The laugh of the figures danced around them, mocking. It echoed in the hollow night, stinging her ears. "Run!" she commanded, stepping in front of Jake, heart pounding like a war drum. Shadows clung to them, slithering so close that she could feel their chills seep into her bones. She turned, ready to dash into the depths of their overgrown yard, but the figures surged like a wave, blocking their escape. "Did you think you could just swing that around and save him?" Thompson taunted, eyes blaring with an unnatural light. "He belongs to the darkness now." The air was dense, suffocating with dread, as whispers curled around her ears, taunting her resolve. "You should give up, Lisa. You don't know what you're fighting against." But she wouldn't give in. With a feral yell, she swung again, narrowly missing and striking the wooden porch instead. The wood splintered under the blow, but it bought them a moment of hesitation. "This way!" she yelled, pulling Jake behind her as they darted toward the entryway. The figure lunged again, claws outstretched, just missing her shoulder as she ducked inside. She hurried to close the door, but darkness pooled around their feet, coiling like a serpent. She pushed against the heavy wood, fighting to shut it against the tide of shadow, but it felt alive, pushing back with a force that threatened to crush them both. "Mom! The windows!" Jake cried, pointing as fractures of black seeped through the glass, flickering like flames in an unseen breeze. "Help me!" she shouted, and together they shoved against the door, but it barely budged. The shadows roiled, and she could hear the laughter morphing into shrieks of anger. "You think you can hide from us? You can't escape your fate." Thompson's voice echoed, morphing every ounce of courage into sheer terror. "We have to go upstairs. Fast." Lisa grabbed Jake's hand, heart racing as they bolted up the stairs. The shadows chased them, shrieking in a cacophony that scraped at her sanity. She flung open the first door they reached their bedroom and rushed inside, throwing the door closed behind them. They leaned against it, breathing hard, desperation pooling in her chest. "What do we do?" Jake sobbed, his small body shaking. "Wait," she whispered, straining against the growing noise outside. "We can't let them in." But even as she said it, she could feel the shadows gathering, clawing at the door, whispering promises of chaos and despair. "Mom, they're getting closer." Jake's voice trembled, eyes darting around as if expecting a shadow to spring from the dark walls. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the night, a scream not from outside, but from within their own home. The sound twisted Lisa's gut, dread seeping into her bones. She turned, eyes wide with shock, searching for the source but finding only darkness. "Get back!" she yelled, backing toward Jake, who was frozen in fear. "I won't to let them take you." Clutching the spade, she faced the door, resolve hardening in her chest. The echoes rebounded, merging into a single voice that slithered into her thoughts. "Do you know the truth yet, Lisa? He was never really safe at all." The floorboards creaked ominously underfoot, shadows shifting and moving as if alive. Lisa's heart pounded, drowning out the whispers. She wouldn't let them win. Not like this. "Stay close to me," she shouted, measuring her breaths as the very fabric of their home trembled. The door rattled violently, and she instinctively raised the spade, ready to defend. The whispers turned into a roar, a turbulent mass of shadow pushing harder, as if testing her strength. But in the chaos, an unfamiliar sound cut through an urgent, familiar voice. "Lisa! Jake! Are you in there?" Her heart stopped. Was it real? Or another trap? "Mommy!" Jake cried, hope igniting in his eyes as he rushed toward the door. "Jake, no!" she shouted, lunging to pull him back as the door shuttered again. "We don't know who it is." But Jake was already at the door, flinging it open against the force of the shadows. Light flooded in, momentarily blinding them. Was it salvation or doom? And through that blinding brightness, a silhouette emerged, one that sent dread coursing through Lisa's veins. "Help me!" Jake yelled, reaching into the light, but she could see the figures pulling from the shadows, ready to strike. "Don't trust them, Jake!" she cried, but everything was slipping away. The light flickered, and darkness howled around them. What were they about to unleash? Lisa's resolve slipped, fear tightening her chest like a vice. As the figures surged closer, she felt the ground shift beneath her, the walls of her reality fracturing. "Get ready," she gritted out to Jake, tightening her grip on the spade. But could she really protect him from the horrors waiting in the light? As the darkness and light collided, a deafening crash rang through the air, and they were left teetering on the brink of disaster. What had they actually invited in? The light shimmered and twisted, morphing into grotesque shapes that loomed over Jake as he reached further, oblivious to the shifting shadows encircling them. Lisa's heart raced, her breath shallow and frantic. Every instinct screamed for her to stop him, pull him back from the precipice of danger. "Don't trust it!" she yelled, but her voice felt swallowed by the light, fading into an echo. Jake halted, staring into the brilliance, a mixture of hope and confusion on his young face. "Mommy, it's Dad! It's gotta be him!" But Lisa could see the truth written across the half-formed features that floated in the blinding glow. The eyes that stared back at them were not the familiar warm brown she knew. They were empty, devoid of humanity, shimmering with malevolence. "Jake, no!" she screamed, moving forward, desperation clawing at her throat. She lunged and grabbed his arm, pulling him back just as the shadowy figures lunged from the darkness with a shriek that pierced the air like a knife. The light flickered, dimming the silhouettes further but revealing faces contorted in rage, their hunger palpable, their intent clear. "He belongs to us, Lisa!" Thompson's voice boomed, rattling the walls of their home, sending tremors through her bones. The shadows roared as they pressed against the edges of the doorway, thrumming with sinister energy. "I won't let you take him!" she shouted, looking down at Jake, who was shaking, terror-stricken. Behind them, the room felt colder, the shadows creeping in, slithering through the cracks. She tightened her grip on the spade, ready to defend, ready to fight, but against what, exactly? In a flicker of clarity, Lisa recalled the old tale, how every light casts a shadow, how every flicker can open a doorway. "It's a trap," she gasped. "We have to make it to the attic. We can't leave now." Jake whimpered, glancing back at the door where the light flickered, almost enticing. "Trust me," she breathed. The doors shook violently, splintering under the raging force outside. "Okay," Jake agreed, his voice small, realizing the urgency. They turned and dashed down the narrow hallway, hearts thundering as the shadow figures screeched, angry calls echoing behind them. The stairs creaked ominously beneath their feet, the walls closing in like the jaws of a beast. Faster! She urged, propelling them onward. The attic door loomed, but even as they reached it, Lisa's heart dropped at the sight of the frayed edges and rusted latch. She burst through and pulled Jake inside, slamming the door behind them. The room was dark, filled with the smell of dust and forgotten memories. Barely illuminated by a single, flickering bulb, cobwebs hung around them like the remnants of a long-lost past. "Mom, what do we do?" Jake's voice trembled, breaking the eerie silence. "We hide," she whispered. "We can't let them know we're here." But as they crouched behind a pile of old boxes, Lisa could hear the shadows swirling below, drawn to the attic's scent of fear and desperation. "You can't stay up there forever." Thompson's voice glided up the stairs, silky smooth, almost sweet. "You're just delaying the inevitable." The shadows creaked and crackled, moving closer. A glimmer of light filtered through the cracks of the attic door, filling the air with a vibrational hum. The beam flickered erratically, revealing glimpses of terrifying faces pressed against the fading barrier. "Mom, what if they find us?" Jake whimpered, clutching her tightly. "We can't let them," Lisa insisted, fear morphing into a fierce protectiveness. "Whatever it takes, Jake. We'll find a way out." Suddenly, the flickering bulb above them blazed bright before going out completely, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through Lisa as she felt the shadows pulling closer. Every instinct demanded she scream, but a low growl came from below, reverberating through the rafters, a chilling sign of what awaited them. And then they heard it, a soft, unsettling knock on the attic door, tap tap tapping as if something wanted to be let in. The air thickened, tension crackling, and Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "What if it's Dad?" Jake whispered desperately, clinging to hope. "Don't," she hissed, pressing her lips together tightly. This wasn't about trust anymore. But was it possible? What if the doorway held the key? As the knocking grew faster, shadows twisted, merging into one solid mass, and Lisa knew that whatever was behind that door intended to take everything she loved. Then, from the depths of the darkness, a voice emerged, a whisper that chilled her to the core. "Let me in, Lisa." What would she do now? What secret did the darkness hold, and who was truly behind the door? Time seemed to freeze as her instincts screamed. But the door rattled again, and the tapping intensified, as if urging her to make the worst choice imaginable. "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled, the tension in the air thickening, almost suffocating. Could they trust the light, or was it all part of the nightmare? The knocking grew more frantic, each tap echoing like a heartbeat. Lisa pressed her back against the wall, her heart racing, the sound settling deep into her bones. "Don't listen to it, Jake," she whispered, holding him tighter, the spade still firmly in her grip. "It's a trick." But Jake's eyes were wide, drawn to the door as if it held the key to a mystery he desperately wanted to unravel. "What if it really is Dad?" he insisted, his voice cracked, laced with hope and fear. "No!" Panic clawed at her throat. She couldn't let him think that way. There was nothing human behind that door. It was all darkness and deceit. "We have to stay quiet. We can't let them know we're here." The whispering continued, now layered with soft promises. "I'm here to save you, my love, let me in." She felt the weight of those words sinking in, testing her resolve. A shadow flickered past the crack beneath the door, gliding like a snake hunting its prey. Lisa's muscles tightened. Then abruptly, the whisper turned low and gravelly, guttural. "It's getting darker, Lisa. You know you can't keep him away from me forever." The darkness pulsed, a living entity looking to devour. Lisa's mind raced as despair wrapped its fingers around her heart. Could she fight the shadows? Could she defy the will of something so old and twisted? The spade's cold metal felt reassuring in her palms as she said, "If you take one more step, you'll regret it." She forced her voice to be steady, clinging to the illusion of power. With a sickening creak, the door rattled violently, and Jake flinched. "Mom, I don't want to stay here," he cried, trembling. "Just hold on to me," she said, almost begging him. "We're going to get out of this." But doubt gnawed at her intentions. Behind the door, shadows rearranged themselves, morphing into twisted visages that stared hungrily. Each face reflected a piece of her fear, each eye black as midnight. "You're only making it worse," they hissed. A chill wrapped around them, seeping through the floorboards. The attic grew increasingly claustrophobic as it filled with the icy breath of the shadows. Suddenly, the flickering light overhead sputtered back to life, casting ghastly silhouettes against the walls. For a brief moment, the grotesque featured faces grew clearer, as if mocking her. "Look, Lisa," the voice sang sweetly. "You can end this, just open the door. Let us in, and we can have him back, all of him." Then, without warning, the whisper crescendoed into a furious roar. The door splintered, shaking violently, as if something was forcing its way in. It was only the wood and hinges holding back whatever lurked beyond. "Mom!" Jake screamed, panic etching deeper into his innocent face. "Stay down!" Lisa cried, her heart racing as a part of her braced for an inevitable collision between hope and terror. The shadows continued to press closer, filling every crack as the whispers turned to wails. And then silence. Both of them froze, hearts pounding in the oppressive stillness. The madness had quieted. "Mom?" Jake whispered, peeking out from their hiding spot. "What happened?" Shalisa commanded, her voice now just a breath. They waited in the thick, oppressive silence, eyes glaring at the door, ready to respond at a moment's notice. But deep down, she sensed something else, an unsettling stillness that felt as though a great eye now scrutinized them, observing their every move. Suddenly, the doorknob began to turn. Her heart stopped. What power lay behind that door, and what did they want? "Jake," she breathed, panic clawing at her chest. "We have to do something now." With the sheer force of instinct, she bolted from her hiding place, ready to confront whatever awaited them on the other side. Was this really the moment they had to face the darkness head-on? The knob clicked, the door swung open, and shadows spilled in like an avalanche. The door creaked open, and the shadows rushed in like a swarm of angry bees, their forms indistinct, writhing with a life of their own. Lisa's breath caught, sharp and painful in her throat. She had prepared herself for a monster of flesh and blood, but this was a fog of malice, an essence far worse. "Jake!" she screamed, but her voice barely rose above the cacophony of whispers swirling around them. The spade felt inadequate against such a tempest. Jake clutched her leg, his small body trembling. "Mom, I'm scared." His eyes shone with tears, reflecting the ghostly light that now illuminated the attic. "Stay close," Lisa cried, pulling him behind her. She gripped the spade tighter, every instinct telling her to fight, but logic screamed to run. What could they do against something that was less a creature and more an amalgamation of nightmares? A figure materialized at the edge of the shadows. At first, it appeared human, a childlike silhouette with pale skin and a lopsided grin. "Hello, Lisa. I've missed you," it sang, the words distorting into something sinister. "Go away!" she shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. She felt foolish, arms raised in defense against a creature that didn't seem bound by physical form. "Why don't you let me show you? You want Jake to be safe, don't you?" It moved closer, eyes piercing into her soul, as if reading her deepest fears. Lisa's mind raced. "Safe? Safe from what?" "From me," the creature whispered, a chill slithering across the room. "You think I want to take him?" No, I only want to protect him." "You're the danger, Lisa." The shadows flickered, whirling around her until she was engulfed in a storm of despair. She could feel their coldness reaching for her, trying to pull her apart. "No!" she shouted, swinging the spade in wild arcs, desperate. Each swing connected with nothing but darkness, yet it was enough to keep them at bay for now. Jake whimpered behind her. "Mom, please!" The childlike figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed painfully. "You think you can protect him? You're only making it worse. Don't you remember? You brought him here. You invited me in." The words struck her like a physical blow, and doubt flooded her heart. Memories flashed through Lisa's mind, the house they inherited, the stories whispered in dark corners about the previous owners. Had she unknowingly opened a door to something beyond their comprehension? "Stop it!" she shouted, lunging again with the spade. The creature danced back, its grin widening. Lisa's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. The horror wasn't just behind the door, it had always been with her. The house thrummed with sinister energy, and they were trapped in a web of her making. "Let go of my son!" she screamed, and suddenly the shadows roared, a terrifying sound that shook the very beams of the attic. "Make us!" the creature taunted, as tendrils of darkness coiled around Lisa's ankles, pulling her down. With a frantic rush of adrenaline, she flicked the spade down, severing the grip around her feet. She couldn't let the darkness win. She had to find a way to turn the tide. "Jake, get to the window! I'll hold them off." "No!" His plea sliced through her resolve. "We can't leave!" A moment of vulnerability threatened to swallow her, but a growl from the shadows brought her back. Wretched howls filled the air, and she knew she couldn't protect him forever. As she faced the darkness that threatened to consume them both, an idea sparked in her mind. Maybe it was just about fighting. Maybe it was about unmasking the monster. "Jake," she shouted, "close your eyes and listen to me." But before she could finish, the shadows surged forward. The darkness thickened, swirling like a tempest, and with it, the last flicker of hope snuffed out. The tension electrified the air. Shadows danced as she braced herself for the impact, knowing the choice would be hers and hers alone. What could possibly save them now as the true legacy of the house clawed to be free? As the shadows lunged, something inside Lisa snapped. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was fierce, unyielding love. She felt it surge, taking shape in her core like a blazing sun. "Jake, I need you to believe in yourself," she shouted, her voice cutting through the whirling darkness. "You're stronger than this." Jake hesitated, his small body still for a moment, visibly trembling. "Mom, I don't know how, just listen," she encouraged, feeling immense pressure from the shadows pushing against her. "You have to believe in the light within you. Trust it, Jake, it will push the darkness away." The shadows snarled, hissing like an angry mob, their tendrils weaving around, trying to crush her voice and the hope it carried. "It's useless," Thompson spat, stepping closer, his face twisted in a grotesque grin. "You really believe he can fight what you welcomed in?" But Lisa's determination surged. "You might have tried to take my son once, but you don't know the kind of strength we carry." With a deep and shaky breath, Jake closed his eyes tight. "I'm scared, Mom. What if I know, Jake?" "Open your heart, and imagine the brightest, most powerful thing you can. Picture it. Feel it." Jake rocked on his feet as whispers engulfed him. She watched in shock as tears streamed down his cheeks. I can't get it out of my head," he cried out, tension thrumming through him. Lisa reached out, clutching his hands in hers. "You have to fight. You have to push back against the dark. We are not alone in this." In that moment, something shifted. Perhaps it was the power of their connection or the bonds of love forged in the crucible of their fear, but the shadows recoiled slightly. The screeches morphed into deep and unsettling growls. "Foolish girl," the creature hissed. "You think you can save him? You brought him here." And then it happened. A glow, faint at first, began to swell at the edges of Jake's small frame. "I can hear it," he gasped, surprise flaring in his eyes. "It's warm, Mom, like sunshine. Focus on that warmth. The love we have. The brightness that lives in you." The shadows screeched louder now, threatening to swallow them whole, but with every word, the light grew larger, engulfing Jake in a radiant aura that pushed back against the darkness. "Mom, I can feel it," Jake shouted, joy mixing with fear, pushing against the darkness that threatened to wrap around them. "Let it explode. Let it shine." The shadows convulsed, strands snapping like taffy under stress, while Lisa held onto Jake tightly, anchoring him. The shadows faltered as the glow intensified, illuminating the room, dazzling like the sun breaking through storm clouds. "Let us do this together," she cried, fueled by every ounce of courage. Jake's eyes widened, determination etching into his young face. He let out a scream, a perfect blend of both terror and power that resonated through the air. The shadows shrieked in pain and fury as if a dam had broken. Light poured forth, cascading throughout the attic, washing over the oppressive darkness like a cleansing wave. In that brilliant moment, Lisa felt the shadows shattering, breaking apart in frantic retreat, squealing like banshees chased off by blessed light. Thompson's face twisted into a mask of rage as he realized their unity was his undoing. No! You can't, but they could. The darkness collapsed under the purity of their love, unleashing a wave that slammed through the house like an earthquake. Keep going! Don't stop! Lisa yelled as the shadows hissed and fizzled. With each heartbeat, the light swelled, filling every crevice of the attic, banishing the darkness that had clung for far too long. Shadows curled away into oblivion, dissolving into nothingness, as Lisa and Jake stood in the heart of what had been their nightmare, now transformed into sheer bliss. As the last remnant of malevolence vanished, silence fell. The attic felt lighter, filled with warmth and reassurance. Lisa's breath hitched as she looked at Jake, his eyes sparkling with remnants of light. We did it, Mom, yes, we did! She whispered through the tears that fell unbidden. The burden of fear lifted completely, leaving only a sweet relief and fresh air that filled their lungs. They embraced tightly, tears of exhaustion mingling with joy. The house felt alive, reborn, as if it had been freed from a curse, reclaimed by the love they carried within. I'm so proud of you, Jake, she whispered. You are so brave. Standing together, they walked to the attic door, opening it gently. The unfamiliar darkness that loomed beyond had melted away, replaced with soft moonlight spilling into the room. They stepped out into the hallway, breathing deeply, and a new day flickered on the horizon, bright with the promise of hope. They were no longer alone. Together, they had vanquished fear, reclaimed love, and awakened the light. As the dawn broke, casting its warm hues through their windows, Lisa and Jake faced the world anew, ready to embrace whatever awaited them, armed with unity, strength, and an unyielding bond. But first, remember, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to see more exclusive stories that will keep you at the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you know. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I can't wait to hear from you all.